What's up YouTube, MDEX Music here, and today we're going to talk about our brand new multi-pitch ear training app, Politonus. Politonus is something we just came up with, and today what we're going to do is talk about some of the best ways to start off with it and all the features. So let's get started. Alright, so when we open Politonus for the first time, it's going to default to this setting here. We can change the settings down here in the setting button. And this allows me to do a bunch of things. I can select a key, I can change the way I want to look at the notes, be it note names or scale degrees or solfege. I can change what notes will show up within the test, whether I want them to be chromatic or only specific to the key that I'm playing in. I can change whether I'm listening to 1, 2, 3 or more notes at a time, as well as the piano volume, and there's also an auto enter button. So let's talk about maybe if you're not used to ear training, a good place to start. I would probably go diatonic. We'll just stay in the key of C and we'll go diatonic. So this will, if it's in diatonic mode, it'll give you less options and it'll probably be a bit easier if you're not used to this. So we're gonna go diatonic and we'll keep the note names on. I could go to scale degrees or solfege if I want to also. We can look at a couple examples of each. So from here, you can see I only have the notes in the C scale showing. All right, so let's hear our first example. Let's go, I'm gonna try to hear the tonic and then relate the note I'm hearing now to that one chord or to the tonic. There we go, E. So basically like the first two notes of an arpeggio are kind of where I'm going with there. So whatever your process is early on, that might change the more you use the app. Your perception of what the note sounds like may start to change, but early on, it might be a good idea to relate these intervals to stuff you already have context with, stuff you're already familiar with. If you hear the first two notes of an arpeggio when it goes from 1 to 3, then go with that. That may change later on the more you use Politonus though. But that's the idea. Let's do another one. So that sounds exactly like the one chord that was just at the end of the cadence. So I'm going to go with C. Boom. Let's look at the notes differently. Let's look at them as scale degrees. So now you'll see all the note names change to numbers. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. They all represent the same thing. Let's try another example. So let's go with, it's close to the tonic. Could it be 3 or 2? Let's say 3. So Politonus is telling me that I got that wrong. It's giving me the red answer that I selected and the green answer that I should have selected. All right, so when you get something wrong, you're gonna see that going on. And you'll notice the score at the top, my accuracy is now down to 50%. All right, my note streak is still the same as it was. It's gonna keep track of the highest note streak that you have. The idea is to have both those circles turn green. Politonus is gonna determine on its own, in its own way, when it thinks you're good to go. And a safe bet is when you have your note streak circle turn green and when you have your accuracy circle turn green, might be time to kick it up a notch and maybe introduce like chromatic notes in the scale. So let's do that. Let's add some chromaticism to our ear training. I'm going to go back to the menu and select chromatic. So now I'm going to have every note in the C scale plus all the half steps in between. And let's go back to note names. We'll keep it in the key of C. So now we have all that set up. Let's go back to the menu. You can see my accuracy circle is turned green because I've reached a percentage that Politonus thinks is good. So now all we have left is to get that note streak circle to turn green. So let's keep going until we can do that. So one of the cool things about keeping it diatonic for a second and getting really used to those notes before switching it over to chromatic is you'll start to get a feel for those notes. You'll start to recognize them like faces in a crowd after a while. So that when you switch over to chromatic, the ones that aren't diatonic start to stand out. And at least you can kind of divide them up into two families at that point. Like those are the notes I kind of recognize, and that doesn't sound familiar to me at all. So it might be F sharp, it might be C sharp or D flat. And then this process of elimination starts to occur. And then the more you do those, you start to recognize them as well. It's just a muscle memory, just like anything else. I know it's not as a tangible of a muscle memory as like actually physically moving your fingers or even using your voice box to sing, but it's still kind of, I want you to adopt that idea that the more you do it, the more you recognize these tones with relationship to the key that you're in, and maybe even in a perfect pitch sense, just in a vacuum on their own. So having said that, let's talk about our green circles up top. I've already set it up to the point where I've hit my note streak, and I'm on the cusp of turning my accuracy circle green also. So let's hit play and see what we get within this chromatic setting. So that I remember from when we were doing diatonic. That was one of the notes I kept hearing when we were doing it within the scale. So that's our leading tone. I'm going to go with B. It says yes. Now my accuracy circle is green, and my note streak circle is green. A quick note about the note streak circle: it is your highest note streak. It is not your current note streak. We might change that later, so just keep that in mind. If you miss one, it's not going to reset. You're just going to see what your highest note streak was. All right, and another one. So that didn't sound as familiar to me as I wanted it to if I'm still in this kind of like diatonic mindset. So I want to hear it again, the note. All right. Let's go with E flat. Right? So there you can maybe lean on a minor chord or a minor scale arpeggio to maybe help you out if you're really comfortable with them or real familiar with them. So even if you don't have a point of reference as to, like, you know your scales real well or don't, or know your arpeggios real well or don't, the beauty of Politonus is it will calibrate you. It will make you more aware, and in turn is going to make you more flexible as a player, as an arranger, as a writer, as an improviser, whatever. So the best thing to do is just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Trial and error. Don't worry about your note streak early on. Don't worry about your score, but just pay attention to what you're hearing and try to see, like I said, if you're looking at a crowd of faces for the first time and then you look at them again, and then you look at them again, you're going to start to recognize more and more people. So let Politonus kind of just do its thing. Don't overanalyze the stuff too much. If you have a point of reference, great. Try to use it. Like we said, that might evolve in time. If not, just keep using the app until you'll see. It's going to change the way you start to hear the notes. It's going to recalibrate your ear, and you're going to start hearing these pitches in a way you didn't think you could and aren't used to this point probably. All right, so now that we're kind of getting consistently correct answers with the one note at a time, let's switch to a harmony. So we'll go back to the menu. We can keep it in the key of C, or we can change keys if we want. That's up to you. We'll keep it in the key of C for our tutorial purposes. And we'll go over to scale degrees just so you can see what that's going to look like. And since this is our first foray into harmony, it might be a good idea to take the same approach with this and just try to hear the notes that are in the diatonic scale, giving you less choices, less options. Let's go and switch this to 2 notes. And let's turn the auto enter. Well, it's already defaulted to off, so let's keep it off so you can see how that works, because we haven't really done that yet. Back to the main menu. All right, so now my answers are depicted in numbers, not letters, because I switched it over to diatonic. So we're looking at scale degrees here, basically within the C major scale. Let's give it a shot. All right, so calibrate your ear to where the one chord was, right? Probably the best thing to do is, what interval is that? Identify that first. Is it a fourth? Is it a fifth? Is it a third? What have you? It's very harmonic. So for me, I'm going to lean towards a fifth. It actually sounds like a power chord. If you play guitar, you'll know a power chord like the back of your hand, hopefully. So just to confirm our suspicions, if you will, of it being a power chord, let's play it again. Right? Not only does it sound like a power chord, it sounds like a power chord built off of the last chord of the cadence. So I'm going to go 1-5, C and G, and it's going to ask me if I want to enter that. So this gives me an option to change my mind if I want to, whereas before it would have automatically entered and we would have had no option to do so. But I'm going to say yes, and it says well done. All right, let's do another one. right, so it sounds very similar to the last harmony. It just sounds maybe a bit higher, right? Therefore, we're going to try to see if we can hear it again. Relate it to the one chord in our head. It also really helps if you take the two notes that are being played simultaneously right now and maybe break them up in your head. Do-da. And if you hear them both separately, that'll help you identify the interval as well as maybe what notes they are. This is a place to start that you may not be at 2 months from now. Maybe you don't need to break them up. Maybe you just write to them, that's a fifth, and it's built off the second scale degree. And I'm going to enter that, and it says, well done. Like I said, you got to be flexible with this process because it's going to evolve over time. Just do what you can right now. Take guesses if that's what you're doing. It really doesn't matter, all right? Let's try another one. Oh, okay, so that one sounds really dissonant, right? My initial instinct is to go with some sort of second. It also, let's listen to it again, doesn't sound like a major second, because it's really dissonant, right? It could be a minor second, could be a major second, and if you know your scale real well, you might be able to isolate where the minor second is within the scale, where the half step is, and where all the major seconds are. So let's go with, I don't know, let's go with D and E, or the second and the third. Well, that's a major second. Let's see if it works. Oh, it was the minor second, right? So we have one of the two choices I selected is red, the second scale degree. That was wrong, all right? But the 3 was in the harmony that was being played. So I selected 3, that's why it's blue. And the 4th scale degree, the F in this case, is what I should have hit. So my answers should have been 3 and 4, not 3 and 2. And Politonus tells me that. So this is a good opportunity to calibrate yourself to that interval that you just missed. So press replay again. Now you can hear what the 3rd and 4th scale degree, when they're played together at the same time, sound like. And then hit it again. And then hit it again. It's obviously now that it's pointed out to us, you know, hindsight is 20/20, that it is a minor second. So the 3rd and 4th, the E and the F in our key that we're in now, would have made much more sense. All right, get that minor second, get that 3rd to 4th movement in your head. Recognize that face, if you will, when you see it again. So now let's check out maybe 3 notes at a time and what that sounds like and what the process is for that. I mean, really the process is just more of the same, right? We just have another face in the crowd again to recognize, another note to try to see what it is. Let's take this opportunity also to switch keys maybe. Let's go to E flat. And we're gonna maybe switch our answers over to do, re, mi, or solfege. Let's keep it diatonic at first. This is our first time doing this 3 note at a time process. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And we'll auto enter our notes so that the first 3 notes that I select will be automatically entered as our answer. All right, so now you can see the options at the bottom now say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or E flat, F, etc. So also, now that we've switched to trying to recognize 3 notes at once, you'll notice at the top of our screen, it now says 3-note streak. So how many 3-note streaks are you on? Let's see what our first example sounds like. All right, well, that sounds exactly like the one chord that the cadence ended on. So let's go with that assumption and go do, mi, sol. 1, 3, 5. E flat, G, B flat. All right, so we got that one right, and I might stay there for a while just in that diatonic mode to ensure that I keep getting them right. But let's say I get comfortable with that. Next logical step is to maybe go back to the settings and switch it over to chromatic mode. All right, this is going to increase the harmony options and all the different choices I might have in this key. All right, so let's hear the next example. Wow, so there's definitely some dissonance in there, right? Half step, let's go with that as our half step, and something below that, right? Let's go with this. Oh, wow, way off. So our half step was actually the fa and the fi, and then we had the sixth scale degree, the la, as our top note. So again, got it wrong, so let's play it and recalibrate what we're trying to make our brain hear or our ears recognize next time we hear something like this. The fourth, a half step above that, and the sixth. All right, so let's do another one. Let's hear that again. Sounds like aspects of the one chord from the cadence are there. That E flat, that do, that one. Is that a minor third? I'm going to say te, flat 7. Ah, well done, says Politonus. All right, so this is basically, you may be seeing me borrow from when we had 2 notes at a time, like the 1 and the flat 3 to hear the bottom of that harmony. And then, to be honest with you, I just guessed at that top one, and I got it right. So that may have been a subconscious thing going on there. It may have just been a lucky guess. Maybe my brain is being recalibrated to hear these notes. But the point is, over time, you won't guess. Politonus will, like we said, get you to recognize these intervals, these harmonies, these scale degrees, and these notes for what they actually are. So let's do something probably completely crazy, maybe at first, and go back to our settings and say, roll bypass 4, 5, and 6 notes and go right to maybe 10. Now, ideally, you probably want to work your way up to this, but let me just show you how this might work. Let's go back to the key of C. Let's use, I don't know, note names again, and keep our auto enter on. All right, so now what's going to happen is we're going to hear the cadence, and then 10 notes at a time are going to sound. And it's going to sound like a complete mess. It's going to sound like just a cacophony of noise maybe to you at first. But this is the idea, to try to maybe pick out, since we have so many notes being played at once, the notes that you can't hear, all right? So you're going to hear a bunch of notes, and what you want to try to do is find the ones that are absent, and that will basically help you more or less deduce what your answer is going to be when you have this many notes going on at the same time. Again, to be able to do this makes you more aware of what's going on around you, and it calibrates your ear to do stuff that it can't do currently, all right? So this is a really good option. It may not be easy to see the every day-to-day point of being able to do this, but trust me, this is something that you're going to want to be able to do, and it's something that Politonus is going to help you do. So let's hear our first example. Wow, right? At first you're like, what? But I think we don't have the tonic there. I don't think we have C. And I know that because I really latch on to the one chord at the end of the cadence, and I really try to hold on to that and not let it go when I listen to the example. Now, you're not going to be able to listen to the example again, all right? You probably wouldn't be able to in a real world setting anyways, so it's probably best that when you're listening to the cadence, don't let go of that one chord in your head or in your ear, all right? So by doing that, I don't hear anything familiar in there that relates back to the one. So I'm going to say C is one of the notes that's not there. I'm going to keep that in mind. Let's just listen to the that cluster chord again. And just like we had when we had 2 notes at a time, if you can, break apart each note one at a time in your head at first. All right, it's a good way to start at least. All right, so there also sounds like to me like the lack of a dominant 7 or a flat 7 in there too. So I'm going to go with at first as my first choice that C, our 1, and B flat, our flat 7, are not present in this chord. So I'll highlight everything else. F, F sharp, G, sharp, A, and our leading tone, B. Well done. So that's basically the best way to do that if you ask me. You have so many notes going on, it's probably easier to figure out what's not there. All right, let's do another one. So like before, have that one chord, have that point of reference in your head. That's really going to help here because I don't hear a leading tone. I don't hear the B. I don't hear that resolution note that would go back to my one chord that we just heard. One more time. And also present is, or not present, sorry, is either the second or the third. I can't quite tell. So here's an example of where I might just probably guess. I'm going to say that it's the second that's not there. I'm going to say that D is missing. So I'll highlight everything but B and D and go with that as my answer. G, G sharp, A, and B flat. Oh, well, there we go, right? So there's another example of me sort of guessing or deducing and getting it right. Who knows though, maybe subconsciously I knew that and wasn't able to tap into it. But from now on moving forward, I'll be able to, with confidence, make that guess a more definitive answer, so to speak. All right, so like it's, again, we're just talking about calibrating your ear, making you more aware of what's going on around you, thus making you more flexible to do all kinds of things musically. Well, so there you have it. That's Politonus. I really recommend you get it. It's really fun. It's really addictive. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions, please feel free to post them. Politonus is available on the App Store for iPad and iPhone. Get yours today. Thank you.